Welcome, everybody, to the Next Experience Academy. Today, we are talking about what's new in Next Experience for Vancouver. My name is Maria Gabriela Ochoa Perez-Wechter. I'm a Senior Outbound Product Manager on the Platform Web UX team, and I am joined by my awesome coworker.
Hi, everyone. I'm Ashley Snyder. I am on Maria Gabriela's team. I'm also an outbound product manager doing knowledge management and admin experience, not next experience.
Not anymore. But thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate having you here. Our next session is September 20th at 11 a.m. Eastern. A lot of you might be familiar with it, but we do these every third Wednesday of the month. And next month, we're going to be talking about what's new in UI Builder and Workspaces. That one's going to be chock full of content. So you're definitely not going to want to miss it. There's a bunch of stuff that I'm really excited for there. We also have another sort of live series called UI Builder Live, where it's every second and fourth Thursday at 4 p.m. Eastern. And it's much more laid back and casual, where we just basically hop into UI Builder and try to make something happen. Sometimes we succeed. A lot of the times we hit roadblocks, and it's just fun to hang out, answer questions, and let you guys see what a real development is like. It's not always the easiest path forward. So up next, just a quick safe harbor notice. This presentation may contain something called forward-looking statements that are based on forward-looking things that we know as product managers. Do not make any purchasing decisions based on anything that we say here, because things may or may not come out at certain points. So let's go ahead and get started. So we've been on a multi-year journey to re-platform our interface, starting with Quebec and Rome. That's where we began deconstructing our agent workspace products to make it more configurable by customers. And we launched our first configurable workspace for customer service management in Quebec, alongside the new UI Builder and configurable workspace template for App Engine Studio. In San Diego, we released the Next Experience UI, which bridged the gap between working in configurable workspaces and the classic environment list and forms. And now users can work in both ways without having to use separate browser tabs. In Tokyo, we made configuring pages in UI Builder easier. In Utah, we released Theme Builder to make theming much easier. Now you can theme your Next Experience UI and configurable workspaces easier. And I'll be showing you guys what's new in Theme Builder at the very end. And in Vancouver, we're focusing on making UI Builder even easier to use and making it so it's easier for customers to begin uptaking configurable workspaces. And something I like to do is just have a little level setting before we get started and talk about the terminology, because if you're anything like me, a lot of this confused me at the beginning. So let's discuss this real fast. We have the Next Experience UI framework, which is the new JavaScript framework built on Web Component Standards. And we have the Next Experience UI. I'll have a picture of what they look like side by side here up shortly. The Next Experience UI is our new user interface released in San Diego, which is built on the Next Experience UI framework. A configurable workspace is the new way of working that replaces working out of lists and forms. The agent workspace is the legacy workspace UI introduced in Madrid that's been now replaced by configurable workspaces. The core UI is previously known as UI 16. This is the interface that is used when Next Experience is disabled. You'll recognize that it's got green, and it's got themes like Blimey. Flamingo used to be a really old one. And then we have the classic environment, which was the previous way of working, i.e. lists and forms. So classic environment, lists and forms still load in the Next Experience UI, and they can continue to be used when it is enabled. And this is what everything looks like. So on the left, we have with the Next Experience UI enabled, you'll see that there is more of a purple theme. That's the Polaris theme. And everything looks a little bit more updated and to today's web standards. It's got a large menu up at the very top that has collapsible menus, unlike in the right side, where before you used to only have one menu, which was your filter navigator, that could be collapsed onto the left. And also it's a lot more green and blocky versus the Next Experience, which is a lot more curved buttons. Something to note, Another thing that I like to touch on anytime that I discuss this is the connection and relationship between UI Builder and Service Portal. The UI Builder is ServiceNow's web user interface page builder for fulfiller experiences. It's built on the ServiceNow JavaScript framework built on Web Components Standard, which is similar to React. And you can use App Engine Studio to generate a starter portal experience. The Service Portal is ServiceNow's web user interface portal builder for requester experiences, which was built on Angular, and it uses Angular widgets as its tech stacks. An example of that is the Employee Service Center. And a question that we get a lot is, when do I use UI Builder versus when do I use Service Portal? And this is the slide that you want to take a screenshot of or get it after we post it. And this basically tells you when to use UI Builder versus Service Portal. The most important thing to know is that as of right now, and this is a safe harbor statement, Service Portal, we don't have any current plans to deprecate it or to phase it out anytime soon. So it's still definitely the solution that you should be using for your requester portal experiences. It fully supports Service Catalog, which UI Builder built experiences have very limited support for. And the most important differentiator is that public pages are very difficult to set up in UI Builder versus Service Portal, where it's just basically a checkbox. So that is the stuff that I like to go over every time that we discuss these technologies. Now, if you haven't enabled Next Experience yet, the typical Next Experience UI activation is listed right here. Something that we recommend that you do is you install the Next Experience Readiness Checker and you scan for unsupported features. And then it's got some migration guidance that it gives you on the page there. We suggest that you, in a sub-production instance, you enable the Next Experience UI and perform your upgrade testing either manually or with ATF. You should remediate unsupported customizations such as DOM manipulation, and I've got a slide on that here coming up shortly. You should prepare communications training and other organizational change management required by your organization, and then you enable Next Experience UI in production as part of your release cycle or per your organization's change management procedures for new features. And this is just a nice little summary. We've got the Next Experience Readiness Checker slide right here. You can grab it from the ServiceNow store and you can use it to check for unsupported features. I will be coming back to this in a second to give you guys a little bit of a heads up on something that's changed as of Vancouver. But first, let's discuss one of the biggest things that's happening in Vancouver, which is the Next Experience will be enabled upon upgrade for Vancouver for all customers. So if you don't currently have it enabled, it will be enabled by default when you upgrade. Now, prior to Vancouver, the Next Experience was only turned on by default on new instances. Its state was not modified by upgrades. If it was off before the upgrade, it would stay off. Now that's going to change. Something important to note is that if customers have known issues with Next Experience and turning it on will negatively affect their instance, then prior to installing the Vancouver update, you can create the system property that's listed on the screen. And it will, if you set the value to true, the upgrade will not automatically turn on Next Experience once it is done. If you miss creating the opt-out system property before you upgrade, or if you discover issues with the Next Experience after it's turned on, you can then turn it off by using the second system property on the right-hand side. We also have some great resources on the Next Experience Center of Excellence. Ashley created a great guide on how to do a phased rollout by groups. The link is right there on the screen. So this is something important to note. We do recommend that you leave the Next Experience turned on. But this is just something that I wanted to go over. Now we're going to go over all the rest of the new Next Experience features. This is something that I normally have right next to the Next Experience Readiness Checker, but it has a new update as of Vancouver. Before, this slide shows you all of the unsupported features that the Readiness Checker checks for. But now guided tours are supported on workspaces as of Vancouver. So this is what I wanted to make note of. If you take a look at the Readiness Checker, there's a little box here on the left that says guided tours. When you upgrade to Vancouver, this is still going to show guided tours on here, but that's going to hopefully get fixed in the future. The guided tours are supported now in Next Experience in workspaces as of Vancouver. So I wanted to make that note for you guys. And I've got a neat little screenshot here with the guided tour designer showing that I am able to add a step to my guided tour, and we'll go over this here in a second as well as part of the demo. The awesome thing is that it also is it's got a great interoperability. Like you can create a tour in a workspace and the tour flow can go to any platform page and or custom pages. So it's not like you're limited to only sticking inside of your workflow, your workspace for guided tour. Next, we've got banner announcements. Now, these originally released in San Diego, but we got a lot of feedback from our government customers that there was a need for an option to make the banners non-dismissible and non-stackable. So now you're able to communicate planned maintenance, unplanned outages, important events to fulfillers and agents. You can also show them based on user or group/role. And you can also schedule the announcements to start a specific time and end date. You can show links, icons, and colors based upon the urgency of the announcement. And now you can make it so your end users can't dismiss it. So it's a great use case for if you want to show, oh, this is a sub-production environment. This is our dev environment. This is our sandbox, or other confidentiality statements that are required for different government type systems. We've also got something new, the Instance Tools utility menu. I'm going to show y'all how to enable this here in our demo. I'm actually very excited about this. I have been waiting for this for a while. I previously in the core UI, if you remember UI 16, the application scope and update set picker menus were displayed in the main platform header area, and they had their own little drop downs. But as of Next Experience, they kind of got shoved under a little globe icon where you could select both of them, and it wasn't readily visible for you. Now you can create a system property and enable the instance tools, and you're able to see it right there. It also shows your encryption context dropdown and your domain dropdown. And you're also able to create a new update set, navigate to the current update set record, or navigate to the update set lists as well. You're able to select your application scope, as you can see there on the left, and your update set on the right. And that's the name of the system property. And we'll be going over how to create that later. Something awesome too that we lost when we went to Next Experience is, do you remember that little blurb under the ServiceNow icon in UI 16 where you could put in different messages? I used to use it for clones. So my post clone script would always add a date and time and saying when the last clone of the instance was and what the instance name was, like if it was a dev or something. That's back now under Instance Tools. You can see service management right there, and that's controlled by the glide.product.description system property. So that's back as well. I'm very happy about this.
I'm excited about the new updates up button. It's the small things, right? Like, where has this been all of our developer lives, right? You can just create one right from there by hitting that little plus symbol.
I know, right? No longer having to go to the list and then hit new and go through all that. I'm so happy that there's just that plus there. It is the best. We've also got now mobile theming. The Next Experience UI ships with the default Polaris theme, and there's a light and a dark variant of the Polaris theme. And the dark theme used to not be able to work on mobile, but mobile now supports a concept called alternate color palettes. And I'll be going over this more here shortly. It's a new wording for what we already had. So before, and I'll be creating an accompanying article that'll go on the Next Experience Center of Excellence in the next couple weeks, explaining the concept of alternate color palettes versus variants. But basically, before you used to have your themes that you could select from in core UI, and then you could change to different theme colors. Currently, in Next Experience, you can only have one theme active, but you could create variants that would allow you to have different color palettes for your customers to pick from. Now, what you consider a variant, we're going to be calling them alternate color palettes. So that way it's a little bit easier to understand what they are. And then variance is going to be somewhat of a reserved word that we're going to be using for accessibility purposes. So a dark theme to help with visibility and vision, things like that. That's a variant versus an alternate color palette, which is what you can create in Theme Builder, spoiler alert, in order to create these different color palettes for your end users to use. Real quick, just wanted to hit on a lot of our builders like Catalog Builder, Theme Builder, Flow Designer, UI Builder, all have had a branding change to standardize among them and to show more of a cohesive design across all of them. So you'll be seeing colors change, but the functionality should all still largely be the same unless they each had their own new updates as well. A great place to learn more about what's changing in these is to check out the rest of our academies. I'll have a list of them at the end of the session that you can take a quick look at to see which academies are available. And then finally, Theme Builder. So Theme Builder came out as a store plugin, as a store product for Utah, and now it's available for Vancouver as well. You could easily create a core theme for the Next Experience UI with a very intuitive and quick to use wizard. But now it supports alternate color palettes and it has a new component preview screen. So I'm going to be showing you guys how the new UI looks in Theme Builder and how you can take a look at the new alternate color palettes and create them very easily from there. So now it's going to be even easier than before to have to create them for your end users. Now we're about to start our demo. So let's take a quick moment and see what questions we have.
Yeah, we've been getting quite a few. Let's talk about the Vancouver change with Next Experience. I think Robert had a question. So they're a legacy customer on UI 16, and they don't have an upgrade pathway to Next Experience. What support will be in place to move to Next Experience, and how long will UI 16 be supported for?
So we have a lot of documentation available on the Next Experience Center of Excellence to help with the transition. How to do the phased rollout is a good example. So I would definitely suggest checking that out. I'll be putting the link in the chat here shortly. But also something to note is that we're not deprecating the core UI anytime soon. I don't think I've heard anything about that. So you're still safe to use it. It's just the further we move forward, the less and less new features that the core UI is going to get, and you'll find yourself missing out on certain things. Is there anything you might want to add to that, Ashley?
Yeah, we, like you mentioned, we're not going to take it away or get rid of it anytime soon. We are still working on replatforming everything. So like Maria Gabriela mentioned, if you need to opt out, you totally can, but we don't really have any dates to completely sunset UI 16 at this time. So this one might be a really good one for the next academy regarding playbooks in UI Builder. They want to expose them to end users. And I think we'll take this one for later and toss it over to Brad for the next academy. I know you can use them in workspaces and on the record page. I'm not sure about exposing them to like end users or public pages yet. I do have some banner announcement ones. So banner announcements, are they only for kind of Next Experience, or will they work on Service Portal too?
So I want to say that the specific banner announcements that we're talking about are separate from the Service Portal announcements. And you'll be able to see, let me share my screen here. You're able to see how they're different lists, basically. They have different menu items for them. And if we click on the Service Portal ones, it doesn't look like there's any options to make them persisting. But if you take a look, oh, here we go. User cannot dismiss. So there are dismiss options for the Service Portal ones, but they are two different records. So if you want to have a banner announcement in your Next Experience UI, kind of like your backend and your Service Portal, you're going to have to create the two different records together. And here's where you can see the non-dismissible and non-stackable checkboxes for the new features.
I was going to say, when you think about your portals and you think about Next Experience, right, they really serve two different personas, right? So you have your service portal announcements for your end users, your public customers, and things like that. And Next Experience is really where your fulfillers and agents are working. So while some of the announcements may overlap, some may not. So that's why we didn't build it into the product by default. You could always create some kind of business rule or setting to do that, but that would be a customization. I think we have a few more. Banner announcements. Can you customize the HTML by adding custom CSS?
I want to say no, honestly. What do you think?
I don't think you can. I think we'll take this one offline and do a little bit more digging in the materials that we have, but from what I remember, you cannot.
There's one more question, or a couple more questions rather.
Variants. I'll let you speak to this one since you know the up-to-date details on that.
On variants, you won't still be able to use them for different content for different audiences. So I'm not quite sure what you're asking here, but I can tell you that currently you are only able to have one theme record per instance, and you cannot have different themes per workspaces, for example. Additionally, sorry, I'm pulling up the question here, so I lost it.
Oh, I marked it as done. Sorry.
Oh, there it is. So, but you are able to, if you go to the themes listing here, for example, you are able to set applicabilities for your different variants. So you could set higher up applicability or different user criteria for the different variants to make them available to certain users and apply things like that. But you're not able to have like a different theme for your CMDB workspace versus your service operations workspace currently. I hope that answers your question. If not, let me know. You guys can always reach out to us on the SNDevs Slack. We have a Next Experience channel on there that you can ask questions in. You can also reach out to us in the Next Experience forum on the ServiceNow community, and you can ask more questions on the event page for this academy, where we'll be posting the slides, the video, and the Q&A questions that we get asked on here, along with the answers. Ashley, do you know if features like Field Watcher are going to be supported in Next Experience UI?
So this one is one I'm passionate about because I love Field Watcher. We have brought it to our teams. I know that the engineering teams are looking at it. We didn't want to do just a lift and shift of it. So I know it's on the radar. It's not supported in Vancouver. So that's one of those things that if you need access to Field Watcher, we have that How to Roll Out Next Experience article that has like a section on a great share item where admins can kind of switch back and forth. So that is a workaround to that, but it is on our radar, just not for Vancouver.
And Kristen is asking a great question that I'm not quite sure of. Some of our largest departments, HR facilities using Navolo, used Connect Chat heavily. There's still some struggle for them trying to move to Follow and Discuss because they're basically still looking for all of that in one place. Ashley, do you think it's accurate to say that the two functions are separated, with Follow for notifications on work notes/comments entered on the record, and then Discuss is for talking to other agents, and then they should try to retrain?
Yeah, so Connect Chat for UI 16 did include Follow in it. So they were coupled together. When you followed something, it did kind of go into Connect Chat. We have separated out Sidebar and the Follow functionality. So Follow right now, if you're doing it like a classic environment form, you are just going to get notifications. It does not interweave with Sidebar right now. This is something that we do know about, and I know that we are working on Follow functionality for workspaces and kind of redesigning that. Yet another thing that we didn't just want to lift and shift, we really have to decouple it from Connect Chat and rebuild it and redesign it.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Randy, different users in a same instance cannot have their own theme record, but like we're about to see, each theme record can have multiple alternate color palettes, and those will be able to, end users can select from any alternate color palettes that are available to them. So it mimics the functionality of having multiple themes back in core UI or UI 16, but this time the back end of how an administrator will administer that for their end users and create it is going to be a bit different. And I'll be showing that in the demo here shortly. Let's see, any other questions?
We do have more coming in. I don't know. Do you want to hold these till the end of the demo?
Yeah, let's go ahead and get started then. So first, let's go ahead and enable the instance tool utility menu. We're going to go to system properties, and you can either go to that by, you know what? I actually have never accessed it through the actual menu item. So
honestly, I haven't either.
And the nerves have just got to me. It's list.
Yeah.
So I was like, link, that's not right. So you can go into the navigation menu and type in sys_properties.list. And remember, this is one of the few tables out of the box that's plural. So make sure you do sysproperties.list, and it'll take you straight here. So from here, what you can do is you can click on new, and you can grab the name of the property. It's glide.ui.next_experience.instance_tools_disabled. And we're going to leave the type of string. We're going to hit value as false. And we're going to hit submit. And now, like a lot of UI changes, it's not going to just happen by clicking around. You're going to have to do a hard refresh of your page. And now the instance tools show up right here. Before, I really should have shown you guys what it looked like before. So let's go ahead and set this to true real quick. Before, the current pre-Utah and before functionality is there's this little globe icon here where you can click on it and you can see the application scope and you can see the update set right here. If you hovered over it, you could see which ones it was. But myself, Ashley, and a lot of other developers really like the ability of just being able to see it here at all times. So now if we set this property back to false and refresh, we now have them listed here so we can see which scope and which update set we're in at all times, as well as you can use this other property, which is glide.product.description. And you're able to change this here to say, let's say this is my demo environment, last cloned on 7/7/2023. And that's what I used to do back when I worked at a partner for a lot of my customers. We used to just have this be updated by script. And then you can see it here. Okay, this is my demo environment, and it was last cloned on this date, for example. So I'm excited about that. Let's go ahead and go on to just a quick showing you guys on the guided tours. Oh yeah, definitely. I'll go ahead and paste the system property in the chat for y'all. So guided tours, you can see the one that I took the screenshot with is right here. So I'm going to go in and create a new record. And this is why you don't do demos live, because it'll be the one moment things go slow.
We're bold. Some academies don't do live demos, but we're just going to live on the edge always.
YOLO. So you can select the tour type, and here's where you're able to now select workspaces. And it will either ask you to paste the URL of your workspace, or you can manually select from the ones that you have available to you. And here it's going to show you the name and then the URL of the specific page that you want it to be on. So I want it to be on my service operations workspace, and I want it to be on my list. right here. And you can add in more configuration information like the different IDs. And you can also select roles, all roles or specific roles. And you're going to click on Create Tour now. It's going to pop up a new window. So theming according to domain separation is a little bit more complex, and I don't believe it's officially supported. I do believe that you are able to do it, but that's something that I'm personally still looking into, and I'm gonna create a an article on specifically domain separation theming in the future. So stay tuned for that. It is something that the team is well aware of, and it is something that I'm currently researching. I agree, Christy. Christy just said the only downfall to the instance tool is that it takes up more screen space versus nesting the dropdowns into the top banner as it was in previous versions. I agree, but also this also opens up a bunch of opportunity for us. So for example, previously you only had the update set and the application scope picker. But now if you have it enabled on your instance, it'll also show your domain, it'll show encryption contexts, and they're planning on adding more things in the future to this. That's a safe harbor. To make it even more useful for administrators in the future. So this is just kind of getting us to parity with what was there before. And now in the future, they plan on making this a useful tool for admins in the future. So here we are in the guided tour designer, and we're able to drag and drop a call out onto any of the elements on the UI that we want. So I'm going to click it here, and I'm going to say, this is a tab, and I'm going to hit save. So now I've got my call out here, and I'm going to add just one more here and put in, this is the start of the list. And I really love how easy to create these guided tours have become. I'm going to hit publish and confirm, and now the tour should work. So let's see. This is the first time I'm trying out one of these tours myself. So I'm going to close out of the designer, and let's see if that worked. It may not have worked at all because I don't have any data here at all. So let's take a look if there's any more questions in the chat.
You may need to set up auto launch, but you can always preview it in the designer by hitting play as well.
Oh, good to know.
So while you're like looking at that and creating the auto launch, a couple things about guided tours. They are on workspaces, and the type does say workspaces, but theoretically they'll work with any page that uses Next Experience components. One thing to like really be like mindful of, and we'll have a whole session on this. I don't know if we'll do an academy. Maybe we'll do a You and I Builder Live where you guys put me to the test and we do it on like a random page and see how it works. That sounds like a really fun one.
That sounds like fun.
Yeah, we'll see what we get, how far we get. But one thing is if you're like working outside of workspaces with guided tours and you want to create one on like a custom page, they do key off the ID of the component. So it really is best practices when you're building your UI builder page to make sure that your component IDs have different names. You don't want like rich text, because that could confuse the guided tour. So I know we'll talk about that more as far as UIB best practices and stuff and going forward with guided tours.
Just like I like to say on You and I Builder Live, do as Brad says, not as Brad does, because Brad very famously never renames anything. So we are now in Theme Builder. Yes, Randy, that is that property to enable and disable the instance tools menu is only for Vancouver. And you have to create it. It's not going to show up in your system properties list. So you're always going to have to go in and make it new. Yep, not for Utah, unfortunately. So let's go ahead and create a theme. The wizard is really, really easy to use. It is like, I should probably count how many buttons it takes, but I'm feeling a yellow theme today. And then I'm going to select my secondary color. I want it to be a nice deep purple. And then my tertiary color, let's make it a more neutral color. Correct guided tours for workspaces is only in Vancouver. Here you can add in additional colors from your branding guide from your employer. You can also add a company logo, but I'm not going to do that right now. You can select these different fonts and you can select how rounded you want your corners, and you can go ahead and create the theme. So now, oh, it's got a nice little tour, neat. So now here you can preview your theme on different pages to see how it's going to apply. You can also select different experiences that you have in your system. So you can see the instance tools uses one of the darker variants on your primary color. And right now we're just showing the application manager, for example. You've also got the ability to preview in something like the service operations workspace and see how things look and go from there. Now, the new component styles preview page is this, where you're able to change the canvas color. For example, if you want different background colors to be applied, so you can preview your different assets on there. It's got a nice full list of everything you could ever imagine on here for you to preview as it looks like on your theme. So now I've got this. I'm going to hit apply theme and apply it. And now if I refresh here, David asked a great question. How do you theme a specific element? For example, change the color of the button specifically. Currently, there's different levels of theming. You have general theming, you have more categorical theming, and then you have component based theming. And right now what they're doing is they're working largely at a general and category based theming for specific the way that theming works is they have theming hooks, which is what the theme feeds into to give color. So right now they're mostly working on the general side of things. They are working on making it more specific and making and giving you the ability to theme per component, but that is currently not something that is supported, and I don't know when it will be supported. That's a forward-looking statement, safe harbor. But it is something that the team is aware of, and they're trying to find the best way to solution for it and find a way to give the best experience for selecting specific colors for things like that. Currently, still, the recommended practice for this is to go into the theme record itself and do specific edits for each specific hook. Something to note is if you create a theme in Theme Builder, you should not touch it directly on the record. You should, because any changes you make outside of Theme Builder will not reflect back in here, and then it'll be overwritten if you make any changes in Theme Builder. So you should really just clone a theme and edit from there. If you want to do more specific, nuanced edits that Theme Builder doesn't currently let you do. But what's really cool is if we go to the manager, here they have a couple of new views. You have the list view, and now we've got something called groups. The groups are going to show us the alternate color palettes that I was talking about. And here you can see that we've got the primary colors, and then we've got the alternate color palette right here. And as you can tell, the dark theme for Polaris, which is a variant, does not display here. And that's because you cannot edit it, and you will not be able to edit variants. Those are going to be automatically generated in the future, safe harbor. But the groups is what I want to show you right now. So my teal donut theme is my main theme, and I created a neon donut theme. So what I'm going to do is I can either go here and add an alternate color palette, or in this view, I can click here and click add alternate color palettes. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. And it asks me to make a theme group name and then a color palette name. So I'm going to add Pastel Academy theme to create the alternate color variants. And I'm going to go ahead and select similar colors, just a bit more pastel this time. And now it's going to ask me if I want to add any additional colors. I can review my selection. Something important to note is that the color palettes are going to use all the other styles from the primary theme. You can't change the logo, and you can't change the typography or the shape. So you're only changing the colors. So now that we've got it created, we can preview it right here. And the additional brand colors, if you go here to color, you can see that there's specific UI elements that you can replace here. That's where you could use the colors in. And this is ideally what they're going to expand upon when you can do more specific editing for the more nuanced color editing requirements. But now, if I go back here and I refresh, I should be able to go into my menu here, go to preferences, and select theme here. So this is what your end users are going to see when you have a theme that has an alternate color palette available to them. You can see the two different, and they say their themes here. But what we're really displaying is the main theme record and then any alternate color palettes available to it. If there were multiple, you'd be able to scroll through and see all of them. But this is how your end users are going to be able to select multiple themes. So now I'm able to seamlessly select the one that I want to show and switch back if I would like.
Now we can all put Blimey back in there for those who prefer. And
We can go back to Blimey. And then if we go back into the manager here, we're able to see we've got now the Academy group, and I can see which ones are currently applied, in which experiences they're available in, and whether they're available in user preferences or not. And I think you can pretty much add as many alternate color palettes as you like, and you'll be able to tell them apart in the list with this little palette icon. So you'll see them here next to the alternate color palettes. And yes, Brian, that is my instance name. So Susie, can dark theme also appear alongside our theme/color palette? They cannot. Variants are going to be something, this is very forward looking. This is something the team is still working on, but they're planning on trying to make variants be something auto generated. So maybe in the future we'll be able to auto generate dark themes, but currently variants are not meant to be, as of Vancouver. Now that we're making the differentiation between alternate color palettes and variants, the purpose is for variants to not be edited. So that's why you cannot edit the dark theme here in Theme Builder. You can edit the alternate color palettes. So let's see if there is any question.
Yeah, I know we're getting to the end of time here.
We are. Oh my goodness. I did not expect that at all.
We got a few. I know Kim's had one about agent workspace and migration to service operation workspace. Service operations workspace does have a pretty good guided setup that I'm encouraging everyone to take a look at. But if you are having implementation questions, I would say go ahead and just reach out to your account rep, let them know, because the service operations workspace, that's owned by our IT service management team. So they're going to be most knowledgeable on that. So go ahead and just get your account rep in the loop and they can get you to the correct product managers for that. Maria Gabriela, why don't we have sound notifications on Next Experience yet?
Great question, Ashley Snyder. Why don't we?
That's a good one to take for feedback.
Is there any other questions you want to address before we wrap up today?
Yeah, there's one last one about automated test framework or ATF for configurable workspaces. I know this is a popular topic. Our teams are exploring it. We don't have any dates at this time. I will just reiterate, you can use ATF with Next Experience enabled, and it will still run on all your classic environment lists and forms. So right now, you just can't run it on the configurable workspaces or any pages that you create or modify in UI Builder. But we are aware our teams are discovering it. Again, it's one of those things where we kind of have to re-engineer everything and build it from the ground up. So as soon as we know, we'll let everyone else know under Safe Harbor, of course.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So everybody, I hope you all had a wonderful time here with us today. If you have any questions, feel free to post them on the next. Oh, wait a minute. I have slides for this. What am I doing? Here we go. Got to get through them quick. We have resources like the Next Experience Community, the Next Experience Center of Excellence. We have awesome courses on Now Learning, and we have the Next Experience Academy YouTube playlist for you to be able to look at older videos like this, Today's Academy. You can also select this cool QR code and find this list of academies if you're looking for more content and more awesome people to learn stuff from. We've got a platform academy, analytics academy, mobile academy, R Academy, AI Academy, conversational interface academy, and all of that. Thank you all so very much for hanging out with us. And I hope you have a wonderful rest of your Wednesday.
Thank you, everyone.
Goodbye.